The McLaren Technology Centre is the hub of innovation for the British company. It is an architecturally interesting building on a lush grassland in Woking, England. The artificial lakes surrounding the building are actually used to cool the interior by pumping water throughout the complex. It is considered both a feat of architecture and a mecca for sports car fanatics. They have a visitor centre and offer walking tours to fans. The building also features a massive wind tunnel where they test the aerodynamic abilities of certain parts. It is a must-see for any fan of the McLaren brand. McLarens aren't just renowned for their acceleration, they also have legendary brakes. Their CCM-R carbon ceramic brake rotors take 7 months to make, more than 700% longer than the average brakes, but they are much stronger and high-performing than the average brakes. With the ability to hit 124 miles per hour in 7.8 seconds, a McLaren can then brake to a standstill in just 4.6 seconds and 127 yards. That kind of performance is virtually unrivaled in the world of auto racing. The first McLaren crest was designed in 1964 by Michael Turner, famous motorsport artist and close friend of Bruce McLaren, for the fledgling Bruce McLaren motor racing team. It's centered on a kiwi, the national symbol of Bruce's homeland, New Zealand. In a more refined era, it's less of a corporate identity and more reflective of a coat of arms for a group of gallant racing adventurers. These days, McLaren has decided that a piece of fruit is not the most refined logo. Thus, they have created the distinctive double swoosh icon that fans know and love. Everyone knows that McLaren is a powerhouse in the world of racing, but not everyone remembers the season in which McLaren absolutely dominated all other competition. This occurred when Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna won 15 of the 16 races held in 1988, a 94% win ratio. Their engine partner at this point was Honda, and though McLaren has yet to repeat this feat, they are still a force to be reckoned with in the world of racing. Though their cars are commercially available now, McLaren was first known as a race car company with only one driver. Originally known as Bruce McLaren Motor Racing, McLaren was founded by New Zealand F1 driver Bruce McLaren in 1963, making their Grand Prix debut at the 1966 Monaco Grand Prix. The first win came from McLaren himself in 1968 in a non-championship race at Brands Hatch. McLaren followed that by winning the Belgian Grand Prix. Bruce McLaren passed away in 1970 when his Can-Am car crashed on the Levant Straight just before Woodcote Corner at the Goodwood Circuit in England, but the company continued on without him. When McLaren started engineering the F1 in the early 1990s, the company never actually set out to build the world's fastest road car. That didn't stop it from annihilating the Jaguar XJ220's briefly held 217 mph record though. The F1 first set a top speed record in 1993, hitting 231 mph at the Nardo Ring in Italy, but McLaren wasn't done. That's why in 1998, the company recruited Le Mans winner Andy Wallace to drive an F1 down the 5.4-mile straight at Volkswagen's Ehre-Lessien proving ground in Germany to chase a new top speed record. He eventually hit 242 mph, and while there are faster cars on the road, the F1 remains the fastest naturally aspirated car in history. It's hard to mention McLaren without bringing up carbon fiber, the material that they pioneered in auto construction. 60 to 70% of a Formula One car's structural weight is carbon fiber, so understanding the inherent strengths and weaknesses of different types of carbon materials is essential. The chemical company, Union Carbide, began experimenting with weaving thin strands of carbon molecules into fabric during the 1950s. That set the stage for McLaren to build the first race cars which used carbon fiber instead of aluminum. Today, McLaren is still a leader in the field of carbon technology, still an innovator, and still committed to developing new composite solutions that offer lighter and stronger options than traditional materials. Bruce McLaren gave both his name and his legacy to his car company, but in the end, he sacrificed even more. The 32-year-old race driver lost his life in a crash while testing an experimental car of his own design at a track in Goodwood, England in 1970. According to an article about his fatal accident in the New York Times, McLaren was amongst the wealthiest driver-designers in the sport and was contemplating retiring from driving to devote more time to the business side of his racing history. Obviously, using a combustion engine causes pollution and is one of the single greatest contributors to climate change, so you wouldn't expect a race car company to have an interest in environmentalism. But McLaren is an exception. According to a company statement, as McLaren operates across the worlds of technology, racing and mobility, we recognize our responsibility to sustainability, from minimizing our environmental impact to maximizing our social impact through our people, technology, processes and operations. Though the specifics are a little vague, McLaren has committed to reducing their emissions by 2.5% in the next 3 years. Bruce McLaren became the youngest ever winner of a Grand Prix when he won the US Grand Prix in 1959, aged 22 years and 80 days. He won the 1960 Argentine Grand Prix en route to being title runner-up and the Monaco Grand Prix in 1962. McLaren founded Bruce McLaren Motor Racing in 1963 and took a historic victory driving his own car at the 1968 Belgian Grand Prix. In doing so, he became only the second team owner after Jack Brabham in 1966 to win a Grand Prix driving a car bearing his own name, and a legend was born.